Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you run through the news you need to know about, we run you through the thank you where we answer fans' questions. Obviously, there's so much to talk about in today's show. Just an unbelievable week for Dolphins fandom. Just an unbelievable week. Well, I mean, really addressed every issue this offense had and then some. And I just can't wait to get into it. But let's start with some a little bit smaller news today. Jesse Davis, and again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. Jesse Davis and Allen Hurns have been cut with a failed physical designation. I don't think this really comes to a surprise to anybody. Jesse Davis probably had his worst year as a Dolphin last year. He had a lot of really bad moments. He was obviously starting, benched a few times throughout the last 2 years, and it's finally come to a head. And he has been let go. Looking back on Jesse Davis's whole run here, it's been not a lot of fond memories. Let's just put it that way. And they have also cut Allen Hurns. Again, this is from Pro Football Rumors. Also due to a failed physical designation. And all in all, it saves about $6-7 million in cap space. Which is good for obviously signing the draft class, which we're not going to have that much of after the Tyreek Hill trade, which we'll get into later. But staying on topic here, Jesse Davis and Allen Hurns, I think we all are ready to move on from Jesse Davis. Allen Hurns was a really weird, he was coming off a good year with Dallas. A year before that, he was with Jacksonville, made the top 100 NFL players list. Looked good in spurts in Miami and just never could stay healthy and never really put it all together. It's unfortunate, man. I think he could have been a better player than if he didn't have bad luck. I think he could have done a better job. It's just unfortunate that luck was not on his side in his career because he was talented. He was a really good possession receiver, and it just never worked out for him. It's unfortunate. I'm just making sure there's not any. Okay, well, let's hit another really short. This kind of connects to the Tyreek Hill trade. So this is the aftermath of it, in case you guys are wondering of how many picks the Dolphins actually have left in the upcoming 2022 NFL Draft, which is a little less than a month away, or just exactly a month away. So this is what these are the draft picks the Dolphins have left. They have a third-round pick, which is the 102nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. They have one fourth-round pick, which is 121st. They have a fifth-round pick, which is the 158th pick in the draft. And they have two seventh-round picks. So I'll just say this one more time. They have 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, and 2 sevenths in the upcoming 2022 NFL Draft. The Dolphins, again, they don't make a pick until the 102nd pick in the draft, which is in the third round. It's actually not that bad. They still have, Chris, honestly, in all honesty, has been better on day 2 and 3 of drafts than he has been on day 1 with his tenure in Miami. He's found a lot of really good players in the mid to late rounds. So I'm still really excited about it. There's still a lot of really interesting players that could be there around 3 and 4, especially when you talk about skill positions. I haven't really gotten into the linemen yet, but there's still talent to be had there. And Chris has proved that he is more than capable of finding gems not only in the undrafted free agent market, but in the later rounds of the draft. So there's still opportunity there to get some really good players. So let's move on to some of the bigger news stories of the day. I gotta take a deep breath because this was like a dream come true. And before we get into these news stories, the literal picture perfect offseason I had for this team was build around Tua as much as you can. Give him one really, really good fair shake this year. We had a really late first-round pick. We had the 29th pick overall. We could really kind of just go all in and surround him with as much talent as possible this year. And they did that. Literally what I think all of us wanted them to do, they did. And then some. I did not expect some of the caliber of players that we got. It's like a dream. They got the tackle, which was probably the most important thing of the offseason, which we're about to talk about right now. And they got the one more playmaker, which I thought they needed at least one more, and he's one of the best in the NFL. And they just a picture-perfect offseason from Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. Hats off to them. Hats off to Stephen Ross for making the right decision and having a really good offseason plan. I'm really happy with what Mike's done so far. And it just... from where the season left off with the firing of Brian Flores and obviously all the allegations off the field, the dramatics with Tua throughout the season last year, to completely just turn all that on its head into the most positive, brightest future that this team has had in a long time is amazing in itself. To not kind of just to rebound off of all that, it's just fantastic. So I could not say enough about what they've done this offseason. It is literally perfect. They addressed all the issues that they needed to. And were able to retain a lot of the players. So let's get into this stuff. The Dolphins have signed the best free agent tackle that was available in Terron Armstead. Or Teron Armstead, I don't know how you say it. Or people say it two different ways. The veteran tackle is signing a 5-year deal with the Dolphins, according to Adam Schefter of ESPN. The sides agreed on a 5-year deal worth $75 million, 40 of which is guaranteed, and he can earn up to $87 million of it through incentives. Obviously, he's had some issues with injuries. Some people around the NFL are concerned about that. This is a massive upgrade. The Dolphins really haven't had a tackle like this since Jake Long. I think Terron is better than Tunsil because he's a better all-around tackle. He's better in the run than Laramie was. Laramie was never really the most physical. He was very much a one-dimensional tackle. And he had his health issues as well. But I think Terron is just an all-around better player than Laramie was. So honestly, I think this is the best tackle we've had since Jake. And it's just it's a massive deal for a variety of different reasons. Not only does this help out the run game, but he's very comparable to Trent Williams in San Francisco. You know, Williams is more talented, but people forget about Terron Armstead. He's a really, really good athlete. And the way that San Francisco used Williams and pulling him and getting him out in space, Armstead is the exact same way. So similar playing styles between the two tackles. And I foresee him being used in the same way. And not only that, but we could take the best pass rusher out of the game, which we couldn't do for the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even more than that. Maybe ever since the Unicorns left, we haven't been able to do that. Our offensive lines have been abysmal. So this completely changes the dynamic of the offensive line, and completely changes it for the better to his career. And it's just going to be nice on Sundays to not have to watch abysmal offensive line play, because with the additions of Terron Armstead and Connor Williams, that completely rebuilds that side of the offensive line. And I think, honestly, the most underrated part of those two players' game is the run game. I think that's what they're best at. Not to say Terron Armstead isn't good in pass protection, because he's fantastic at it. And he ran a very similar passing system in New Orleans, which is the West Coast system, which is what we're going to run here in San Francisco in terms of the passing attack. And Terron Armstead was a physical road grader. That's what the Saints offense did in Drew Brees' later years. Was the focal point was running the football, and that he's going to bring that physicality down here to Miami, which is something this team hasn't had on the offensive line in, like I said, almost half a decade. And not to mention the fact that they also got Connor Williams from Dallas, and that's the best thing that he does. He's a physical player. He's really good in the run game and moving the line of scrimmage. He said, and obviously the interviews that he's done since he's become a Dolphin, he's most comfortable at left guard. And I completely foresee him playing that position. It is perfect what they've been able to do. And I'm interested to see where they put Robert Hunt after this signing. And who's going to play that other tackle position, whether it will be Eichenberg or Hunt. And I think that's a good place to be, because I like Dieter at center. I think he did a fantastic job there last year when he was healthy. And I think he fits this scheme too. I think Dieter is going to be really good in this scheme. But it's going to be interesting to see how they fill out the other side, because there's a lot of competition there for those last two spots, and it's going to be fun to watch. But just what a great job that Chris finally ponied up actual assets to get a premier offensive lineman, and two really good ones this offseason. And obviously Terron Armstead's one of the best at his position. And finally the Dolphins took priority in that because, again, for some reason, they haven't done that for the last 6-7 years. It's, I don't know why. Ask the front office of the Dolphins. It's really weird why, if you think about it, why they were so. And again, they wanted to do it through the draft, but it just kind of blows my mind of how bad that positional group has been over the last few years, and it's, in my mind, been completely fixed. And the run game is just going to be really fun to watch with those two up front blocking. So A plus. From me as a Dolphins fan. I love the signing of Connor Williams. I think Connor Williams is underrated, and I know he gets a lot of crap for the holding penalties, and I think he was benched at one point last year, but this is still the 11th highest graded guard in the National Football League. He had a really good year before that, and I think with better coaching around him, which I think he has a better coaching staff here in Miami, he's going to be even better. So that doesn't concern me at all. I think Connor Williams is a dang good player, and definitely, at the very least, an NFL starter, which the Dolphins didn't have last year, especially on that side of the offensive line. So A+++. Could not be more excited. Could not. It was obviously, I don't know how you guys felt, but waiting because obviously it took a while for Taryn to officially sign. And we've had many times throughout, free agency in the offseason been kind of let down by the Dolphins in terms of, oh, this was rumored or that was rumored, and it never came true. And to have a lot of this stuff actually happen, and, these players are really, really good, it doesn't seem real. So let's move on to the next news story. And I think that's a very fair deal for one of the best tackles in the National Football League. By the way, for Terron Armstead. So let's go to the biggest news story of the last who knows how long for the Miami Dolphins and Tyreek Hill. And some might say the reincarnation of the Marx brothers, excuse me. I don't know why I said the Duper brothers, but the Marx brothers. Very similar, both shorter receivers and are obviously blazing fast. I think these two, and I know people are going to freak out when I say this, but I think they're more talented than those two were. Maybe Mark Clayton was obviously the more talented out of between the two as a receiver, but I think these two, Tyreek Hill's an all-time, he's going to be a Hall of Fame receiver, and I think Waddle has the opportunity to do that as well. So I think these two, similar in playing styles, and height and body build and everything, but I think they're more talented than they were. So it's just cool to it's kind of like the 2022 version of those two, and it's gonna be really, really, really fun to watch. I know people are gonna freak out when I don't really care. I think but it does remind me of that a little bit because of the similar builds and stuff and similar play styles. But anyway, let's get to Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins gave up. Let's get into the numbers. Again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Kansas City Chiefs trade Tyreek Hill, one of the greatest deep threats to ever walk the earth, to the Miami Dolphins. So his contract is weird. Hill's extension is worth up to $75 million in guaranteed money. 50 of which is fully guaranteed. So 50 of which is fully guaranteed this year. If he plays next year, 75 million of it is guaranteed out of the $120 million. To kind of put, I think that's a simple way of putting it. In terms of the draft compensation, the Dolphins send one first-round pick, which was the 29th pick this year, their second-round pick this year, their fourth-round pick next year, another fourth-round pick next year, and a sixth-round pick next year. And I know a lot of people have, and we'll start with the draft compensation. I know a lot of people have made a big deal about this. And I kind of think it's it's really stupid, to be honest with you. The Dolphins really didn't give up that much. Next year they have 2 first-round picks. I don't really know what the big hubbub is about this. I think this is a fantastic deal for the Dolphins, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of the team. I said this even before we made this trade, when the Calvin Ridley rumors were starting. They have a pick at the bottom of the first round. Give that up to go get a great player. And I think that was the right thing to do. This was again, bottom of the first round pick. If we look at the history of the league and the history of the draft the last few years, those picks have not panned out, especially the 29th pick. It very rarely does. The last time we picked this late in the first round, it was Noah Igbenogany. Why just go out and get a great player? And I didn't think they were going to be able to get someone of Tyreek Hill's caliber. I was just hoping for Calvin Ridley or Amari Cooper. But to get Tyreek Hill it's just a different level. And that was an opportunity that they could not pass up. And adding him to this Mike McDaniel system, which is, I cannot even imagine what it's going to look like on Sundays. So to me, this was an easy deal to make. They didn't give up their future for Tyreek Hill or anything like that. And they're going to get one of the best players at his position. And I think the receiver position is one of the more important positions of the league right now. It's a pass-first league. We've seen in the last many years with the inconsistencies of Devontae Parker and some of the other players on this roster, like Albert Wilson and some of the other receivers, Jakeem Grant, who never developed, how hard it is to win games when you can't score points. That's been the Dolphins' Achilles heel over the last 2 years. The Dolphins won 10 in 9 games. They won 19 games in 2 years. Didn't make the playoffs. And could have been a lot better if they had an offense. They won 19 games in 2 years, barely missing the playoffs with a bottom 5 offense in the National Football League. Okay? And that was the most important thing to fix this offseason, and they did it. So whatever it took to do that, they tried to do it through the draft. It didn't work. They did get Waddle out of it, which is a blessing. They did get Gesicki out of it, which is a blessing. But that's pretty much it. And they did the right thing. They went out and got Cedric Wilson. They got Tyreek Hill. They've assembled a fantastic offense with Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds. They did everything that I could have. This was a dream as a fan. This is what I wanted them to do. And I don't know how other fans feel about this, but to me, this is the perfect offseason. There is no flaw in this offseason. They didn't lose anybody from the team that won 19 games in 2 years. They didn't lose anybody. They retained Josh Boyer, who runs the same scheme that they've had so much success with over the last 2 years. You pair that with an insanely talented offense, not only at the receiver position, but in the backfield as well. And they upgraded the offensive line. It's a miracle. It really is a Christmas miracle. The Dolphins finally fixed their offense, which was the biggest issue on the team and the most glaring hole by far on the roster. And they fixed it and then some. They did a better job than I thought they could have. In terms of, all I know is this going to be really scary with the emphasis on the run game, which this is going to be a run-first offense with I understand how defenses are going to defend that. They're going to have to load the box because of how creative the run game is and how everything kind of comes off of it. And that's the first thing you have to stop when you play us. So if you can't load the box against us, which you cannot do because of Waddle and Hill, it just honestly, and I cannot believe I'm even saying this, it really makes the Dolphins offense unstoppable. And all it really comes down to is Tua and Mike McDaniel's ability to install an offense. That's really all we don't know yet. Those are the only question marks because the talent is there. And we know Mike can coach offense. It's just, can he do it as a head coach of a team? Which we haven't seen yet, which from everything that we've heard around the league, that's probably more of an answer than a question mark. But that's really it. The offense, all the talent is there that you need. But the idea of it and how the run game is so potent and powerful, and his ability to use speed on offenses, it is going to be legitimately unstoppable, this offense, if everything goes the way we think it will with Tua. It comes down to Tua in a lot of different ways. But yeah, if you're a defensive coordinator, it's really going to be an impossible job to stop this offense. The way it's ran and the way that the talent puts you in a bind, it's going to be really, really fun to watch. It's going to be really fun to watch Tyreek Hill in a run-first offense, which will give him easier looks. than he is, because he's coming from Kansas City, which is a very pass-heavy offense. And really the pass game up there is an extension of the run game. But he's never been in an offense where it is so run-heavy focused. And the run game is unique. It's creative. He's going to be involved in the run game. And with the amount of speed on the offense, it's just going to put a lot of pressure on defenses. Like a lot of pressure on defenses. And it's just going to come down to decision-making from the quarterback, really. So it really is a dream come true. I was so stressed out when we heard that the Jets might get him, and when it was a bidding war between obviously both of the franchises there, it was very stressful, like 3 hours there, and I could not be more happy as a fan. This is literally exactly the way I wanted it to go the offseason, and like I said, even better. This is what I hoped that they would do, and they did it, and it's probably the most talented roster that we've had in maybe 15 years. Maybe, I don't know, man. It's hard to compare teams because this team hasn't played yet. But in terms of just the accumulation of talent, and all of these guys are 30 and under. I think Terran Armstead just turned 31. Tyreek Hill just turned 28 years old. It's a young team, which is great too. So this is what you're supposed to do, by the way, when you draft a young quarterback. And I think that was the biggest reason Brian Flores didn't have a better 2 years, and he had a good 2 years. But if he put more emphasis on that, we would have won a lot more games. And they finally did that. They did the right thing. You got to build around your quarterback, and that's something the Dolphins didn't do with Ryan Tannehill. They didn't do it well, and they're finally doing it with Tua, and they're doing it the right way. And I heard. One last point I want to make about this and all the offseason moves that the Fins have made. I heard Jeff Darlington say something like, "Oh, we've been through this before with the Dolphins." No, they haven't. They've never gotten a player like Tyreek Hill. They've never gotten a player like Terran Armstead in free agency. Like the closest thing I can think of is Brandon Albert. But if you think about the big splash free agency moves over the last 10 years with Stephen Ross, it was Brandon Marshall. It was, which he was probably, honestly, by far the best player that they've ever acquired before this. It was Darnell Ellerbe. It was Ndamukong Suh. It was Mike Wallace. Greg Jennings. And by the way, a lot of those players were out of their prime at that point. So no, this is not even close to being comparable to some of the other free agent mistakes that this team has made over the years. It's not even close, okay? So I just wanted to kind of debunk that. I heard that and it kind of made me mad because it's not even comparable. This offseason is by far leaps and bounds better than anything that they ever did for Tannehill. That's for sure. I'm missing a couple other players that they signed for Tannehill. Obviously, they got rid of Brandon Marshall before, which was one of the dumber moves that they've ever done, before they even drafted Ryan, which they were in the market for a quarterback. But yeah, there were some other receivers in there that I'm forgetting right now that really didn't pan out either for Tannehill. But it's not even comparable, ladies and gentlemen. They're getting one of the best receivers, if not the best weapon in the league, in his prime. He's only 28. He just turned 28 years old. So I don't know what else to say. I mean, this is they could not have, and again, done a better job putting talent around Tua. They could not. I cannot wait to watch Tua play this year because I do think, and I know a lot of people might disagree with this, I do think the talent around him was really bad, especially last year because we dealt with a ton of injuries. The offensive line wasn't playing well. The run game got better as the year went on, but there were, like I said, and I've made this point a million times. I don't want to make it again. The Dolphins didn't have speed on their offense. They didn't have receivers that could separate other than Waddle. After Waddle, Gesicki and Devontae Parker are possession receivers. And Devontae Parker is at best an inconsistent player. And we all love Mike Gesicki. I love Mike Gesicki. He's a good tight end. He was a no-show for the last month of the season. And honestly, the last month and a half of the season, he really didn't do much. And he kind of has those games where defenses take him away. As much as we love Gesicki, it's just the cold hard facts of it. All right, so he needed a receiver and an offensive line that could give the quarterback time to take advantage of that speed, which is what the Dolphins did. This is going to help Gesicki and Devontae Parker out a lot because they're going to get favorable matchups now, and teams can't play man coverage on us. And the thing that Tua succeeds in is slicing zone coverage. I think that's the best coverage, honestly, that he's had to do. And again, what quarterback is going to be good when they're running, their offensive line sucks and can't pass protect, and teams are playing man coverage and nobody can get off of it other than Waddle, which, by the way, is the reason Waddle had a record-breaking season as a rookie in terms of catching the football, because that's the only person the Dolphins could consistently rely on to get the football. And they couldn't even use Waddle in the way that they wanted to because the offensive line was so poor. So all of those things were fixed this offseason, and all of those things affected Tua's first 2 years in the league. Not to mention the fact his first year, he was coming off, obviously, the hip injury. And if you watch Tua year 1 to year 2, physically, he looks like a different human being. Like a completely different person. If you look at the first year to second year, in terms of the way he runs and throws the football, he looks a lot bigger than he did his rookie year. It's not even close. So I think all of those things are going to trend in the right direction for Tua and really just uplift his career. Not to mention the fact that they got a really good offensive coordinator in Mike McDaniel. And I'm so happy that he decided to call plays and didn't give the reins to someone else, because I think that was really important as well. And I just can't wait to see this offense get going here. And I'm sure the social media clips are going to be amazing for training camp and some of the OTA stuff this year. It's going to be fantastic. So that's really all I have to say about the whole situation. But again, and I want to make this point one more, and I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but this is different than those off seasons. These moves are much better, and they had a vision for it, and a plan, which is to fix this side of the football in a very specific way, and I think they did that. So let's get into the fan Q&A where we answer Finn's fans' questions. How many questions? Ooh. Okay. We have 5 questions here. Hopefully the audio wasn't too bad again. And I know it's not as good as I want it to be, but it is what it is. You gotta keep on pushing. This first question comes from Jerry. He says, "Hey Skaggs, can't wait to hear how excited you are about Tyreek. How awesome it is that we're going to have someone who will force defenses to sit into safety high formations. Perfect to help establish a run game and let Waddle work the sticks." You're absolutely right. And people forget that Waddle, coming out of the draft, was the best deep threat in that draft. That was his game in college, is his speed. And this is something that I made a point of when we drafted him. He's more than that. He's more than just a speedster. He's just a really good receiver, and he's shown that since he's been in the league, a short time in the league as a Dolphin. But the thing about Waddle is he can take the top off of a defense too, not only from maybe scoring on a 60-yard post or a go, but he can take a slant to the house easily. So yeah, the way that you spread, stretch, put pressure on the field is completely changed now. Not only with the additions of the receivers, but with the offensive line, which gives you more time, and it extends your playbook. It allows you to call plays that you wouldn't call if you had a bad offensive line. So it opens up the playbook a lot as well. So yeah, all of those additions help the offense score more points in a variety of different ways, but you're absolutely right. It forces defense to stay in that 2 single high. Now, if they get aggressive and want to blitz, like the Buffalo Bills have the last 2 years against us, and stack the box, you can't do that anymore against us. You can't do those creative, insane, heavy zero-man jailbreak type blitzes, because, and especially to use the Bills as an example, they weren't the only team to do that to us. They weren't scared of anyone on our offense other than Waddle, and they knew that we weren't going to get enough time to throw the football anyway. So it does so much for the offense to adding these players, and it just completely changes the way defenses have played us the last few years. And it relieves a ton, and I mean a ton of pressure off of Tua. So you make a fantastic point, Jerry, teams do have to play two safety high, and Tua has been really, really good at dissecting whether it's cover 2 or maybe even cover 4 if you're getting a too deep zone look. He's been really good at that. So all of those reasons, it relieves a ton of pressure off of Tua. Let's go to the next question. This question comes from Mark. He says, is this going to be enough? Signing Armstead, at least in comparison to the rest of the NFL? Or even just the AFC alone? What we now target in the draft, that we have Armstead with the AC being as tight as it's ever been, can the Fins make the playoffs? Absolutely, especially after the moves that they made. Their defense is still one of the best in the National Football League. It's one of the best at making splash plays and game-changing plays, as we've seen the last 2 years. They're not changing schemes, so that's going to still be there. Not to mention the fact that their offense, from a football schematic and the way that the game is played standpoint, is the best that you could possibly get out of an offense. It is indefensible if it is executed the correct way. They have the players to be an undefendable offense. So they have everything that you would want. A great run game and a great pass game. Now they just have to put that onto the field. So yes, this team definitely can make the playoffs. It just comes down to the quarterback play. I think that's what really is going to gauge how far the team goes. And a lot of people have made the point after the Dolphins made all of these moves that if Tua doesn't work out, with the 2 first-round picks we have next year, excuse me, I had a little cough. With the 2 first-round picks that we have next year, all of the veteran quarterbacks, and we've seen the quarterback carousel over the last few years, it's going to be in a very, very attractive place to want to for players to want to play because of how talented the offense is. So, yes, I think this is definitely a playoff caliber team, and I definitely think this team can get this. I mean, they're obviously an extra seed. They're 7th seeds in the National Football League, but this team is really good. Like, if you just look at the roster, it's just really, really good. And it's, again, a very scary offense to play. You know, and I was looking at the roster after we made all these moves. We still have players like Hunter Long who are young and developing. Like, I still really, really like him as a tight end. So I think players like that are going to get even more opportunity. And Cedric Wilson, who I think has a very bright future in the National Football League, is also on this offense. This team has everything that you need to not only make the playoffs but win a playoff game. And I could not be more excited to watch this team play. This next question comes from Richard. He says, Barry, Jackson reported that the NFL experts don't expect Armstead to play 17 games. Should the Dolphins consider a load management system to preserve him? See, now I read this too, to answer your question, Richard Rodriguez. Scouts need to shut the heck up. Okay, now listen, everyone with a brain and 2 working eyes can see that this man has missed games over his career. Okay, that's all that they're basing this off of. That doesn't mean he can't play an entire season. Is it likely? Who the heck knows? We'll have to find out. His history definitely. Who knows? Like, I hate when I hear stuff about scouts and when they comment on players and stuff like that, because literally 99% of the time it turns out not to be true. Seriously, I mean, scouts are one of the more annoying people to listen to on TV when it comes to stuff like this, because it's like how, I mean, you know, I don't know. It just, I understand where they're coming from, but 17 games is a lot of games. But if we get 14, 15 out of that, I'm going to be really happy, man. I don't have to get 17 games out of it. I don't think it concerns me too much. We'll have to see. It honestly just. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, but we'll see. I'm choosing to be I'm positive about the situation, and I mean, there's a lot to be positive about the Terran Armstead. That's the only thing about his game that's I guess a question mark is his health. But no, it doesn't concern me at all. I think he'll be fine. But to answer your question, well, the other part of this question is, do I think he'll have you can't have a load management system with a tackle. Now, you can have one in like practices and training camp. I'm sure that they'll do that with him and make sure that he gets to the season healthy. But in terms of in the season, you can't do that with your left tackle. This next question comes from Bobby. He says, "Who do you think the starting 5 linemen for the Dolphins will be this year? It seems that there's a lot of versatile linemen on this team that can lead to different combinations. Here's my prediction for fun in comparison." So this is Bobby's offensive line for next season. At left tackle, he has Taron Armstead. At left guard, he has Austin Jackson. At center, he has Connor Williams. At right guard, he has Robert Hunt. And at right tackle, he has Liam Eichenberg. I'm going to say, and I know you're doing this for fun, this would be one of my least favorite lineups. I think Dieter at center and have Connor at left guard is a better combination in my opinion. But I could see, I could see where you're going with this. I do like your decision to put Robert Hunt at guard. I would just have Austin Jackson and Eichenberg battle it out for the tackle position, and just to see who wins out there. Because I think Connor Williams is a much better guard than Austin Jackson, and I think Dieter is a much better interior player than Austin Jackson as well. And I think they've shown that over their playing time here. So that would be my combination. But it's definitely a unique one, that's for sure. This next question comes from Richard. He says, "The second coming of the Marks brothers, Hill and Waddle." I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought about that. Do the Dolphins trade X and Devontae Parker to get back some of the draft capital? And what about signing Philip Lindsay back? No, don't do that. If they want to get rid of Devontae Parker, I don't care. Cedric Wilson would obviously step in and replace his productivity pretty easily. But you would make the team worse if you traded X. So, no. And he said, what about signing Philip Lindsay back? I don't think he fits the scheme that the 49ers and Mike McDaniel run. You need someone who has game-breaking speed, and Philip Lindsay is a very fast running back. I just don't think he has great change of direction like the other two do on the roster, like Edmonds and Mostert. And they just paid them not a good amount of money. It's not that much money, but they paid him money. So they're going to want those two to get as much run as they can, and they still have Gaskin on the roster. So I just don't think there's enough room for Philip to answer your question, Richard. And I absolutely think if they traded X, I would be taking a step backwards. Xavier Howard is such a game changer when it comes to he just makes plays on the ball. Even last year, the last game of the year last year, he got a pick six off of Mac Jones and completely changed that game, blew it wide open. Xavier Howard is just too much of an asset to get rid of, and there's no one like him around the NFL other than maybe J.C. Jackson. And I know people are going to bring up Trayvon Diggs. I'm not a huge fan of his. Xavier Howard does what he does in man coverage and bump and run, which is significantly harder to do than do it in zone coverage. And Trayvon Diggs, if I'm not mistaken, gave up the most yards out of any corner last year. And again, I just don't think there's anyone else like Xavier Howard who can completely change a game. I don't know why. First of all, I want to make this point right now. Draft capital is not as important as Xavier Howard. It's just not. And this team is in a win now mode, especially with all and again, guys, this is one season. The draft is a month away. Okay? Next year, the Dolphins have 2 first-round picks. There would be no reason to get rid of Xavier Howard to get a couple of late-round picks in return. No reason at all. So I'm definitely... I would hope to God not that they wouldn't do that. That would make me very upset if they traded Xavier. Hopefully Xavier retires a Dolphin. That's what I'm hoping for at this point. The man has earned it. He's been just a pleasure to watch over the last few years. If you look at his career statistics compared to some of the great NFL players in the history of the league, he has better numbers than them, and he's a special player, and I hope they keep him on the team because I don't know why they wouldn't. Josh has made it very apparent. Even Sam Madison in his interviews and Patrick Surtain said we really want bump and run corners. That's what we want. I don't think they would get rid of Xavier Howard to replace him with either Nick Needham or Noah Igbenogany. I don't think that the team is going to do that. And I think this new regime especially recognizes the value of an Xavier Howard. So yeah, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I could not be. This offseason is an A plus 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 plus. I don't know how many pluses you could give it. The fact that the Dolphins were able to retain the players that they've had a lot of success with over the last 2 years, and add onto the roster, and not just add on it, but to make it significantly better. And someone brought up the statistic, and this statistic has been thrown around a lot over the last, since Tua has been here, especially, that the Dolphins haven't had a top 10 offense since 1995, and that's going to completely change this year. I can't even remember the last time the Dolphins had even like top 15 numbers across the board. Definitely not in last decade they didn't, and hopefully that. Not even hopefully. There's no way it can't change now, because the talent is just too great. Anyway, that is it, guys. Let me know what you guys think about the off season, and did you like it? There's rumors that the Dolphins aren't done. Maybe they go after J.C. Treader, which would completely. I mean, if they did that, then that would just be adding icing to the cake at this point. But J.C. Treader is a fantastic player, so if they were able to somehow fit him into the salary, that would be pretty crazy. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I obviously do really enjoy making it. Yeah, it's an A plus 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 off season for the Miami Dolphins. And one last thing I will say is, Mike McDaniel brought the San Francisco Los Angeles Rams mentality to Miami. And I think the way that those teams have built their teams is the right way to do it. And I think he did the right thing. He's done a fantastic job of, and a lot of people, and especially like the players that we've signed that have come here, are because of Mike McDaniel. If you guys have listened to those interviews, he's done a fantastic job of recruiting players here. So Mike has done a fantastic job since he's been here as the leader of the organization. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.